Name something, besides light switches and designer jeans and soap bars, that Andy Rooney has never been able to take seriously.
I've never been able to take spying seriously. I have this theory that when a spy is caught, he ought to be spanked and put to bed without his supper and not allowed to go out and play with the other spies again for 2 weeks. It's my opinion that very little would be lost to any country if they quit spying altogether. The most important information a spy ever gets about another country is a list of that country's spies. Just recently, we caught a Soviet spy named Zakharov. A week later, the Russians arrested an American reporter named Danilov. They said he was a spy. President Reagan says Danilov is not a spy.
The continuing Soviet detention of an innocent American is an outrage.
But then, so why did we make an even trade? Sure makes Danilov look like a spy to the rest of the world. Keep in mind that by Russian standards, half the journalists in Washington would be imprisoned as spies. Spy's a strange word. There are good spies and there are bad spies. Our spies are good, their spies are bad. James Bond, for instance, is a good spy.
Baby, you're the man.
Last year, a spy gave the Russians our Navy's communication code. We said it was serious because it would allow the Russians to listen in to what our Navy at sea was saying to our Pentagon in Washington. So what was the Navy saying that was so secret? They planning to attack Moscow or something? I like to think my country is doing all good and honorable things, nothing sneaky. If that's true, what do we care whether the Russians are listening or not? I sat at a dinner the other night in Washington with William Casey, head of our Central Intelligence Agency. I was surprised that he'd never even heard of the tennis champion Ivan Lendl. Now, what kind of intelligence is that? Maybe Mr. Casey ought to fire his spies and just read the newspaper.
Well, the mail this week brought a raft of glowing letters about Andy Rooney's piece on the need for drug addicts to take some responsibility for their own actions. It also brought a sprinkling of unfavorable letters about what some viewers felt was Andy's equating alcoholism with drug addiction. In that vein, one viewer wrote, "Continue to be funny and entertain us, but please steer clear of poking fun at people with chemical handicaps. It's neither funny nor entertaining." However, as we said, most of the mail was glowing. One viewer called it the most common sense item on 60 Minutes in some time. Did it get past you flaming liberals because of the corporate confusion at CBS? Andy Rooney for CEO. Finally, about our story on the President of the Philippines, a viewer said, "How dare that Mrs. Aquino push all her idealistic approaches on a political situation? What is she trying to do? Make the world a better place to live?" I'm Harry Reisner. We'll be back next week with another edition of 60 Minutes.